Well, good morning, alumni and friends. It's good to see your smiling faces. And I figure we do a little check-in and just an update on what's going on, and then explore ideas for this practicum. Some of the folks who I know are interested weren't able to join us today, so recording this for them. I'm Kitty, everybody knows me. And why I'm still excited about the practicum is because, so that's my question. So what brings you here, and what are you looking forward to with the idea of this Alaska Practicum? One, I get to see my peeps up in Alaska, which is going to be awesome. And two, yeah, maybe getting out after all of this quarantine time and enjoying the endless sunshine days, which we have now more than 12 hours of sunshine already. But yeah, it's just going to keep getting better. So Miss Patty, do you want to share what's cooking and why you're joining us?
Yeah, I am excited about the practicum because I just love being in the company of MSOD people like, you, Kitty, and Lorene and Ariel. And I have had a history of working up in Alaska, so because of Kitty and some connections she made for many years. I guess it's been like, I don't know, 12 years or 15, I don't know, a long time. And so I generally would go up for work, and this would be more like exploring for me, in the practicum and being a part of the community and participating in something that is for me. And also I'm excited to bring the horse program to people because I feel like it'll be an interesting way for us to connect and to learn about our leadership presence and to experience Lissa Pohl, who I am so totally thrilled about. And so being a part of offering and receiving is a big part of why I'm interested in the program. To be honest too, I was a little bit worried about it because I've been traveling so much and just felt like kind of squishing it in, like I was going to go to the UK for something, and I was going to go here and go there to go to New York, and felt overwhelming. But a lot of those things have been canceled now. So I feel like some of that's been lifted from me, which means that I should be able to enjoy a true vacation. This is my kind of vacation. Like my vacation is go whole hog into something, so that's what I like to do. And like sit on the beach is fine and all that, but this is like even more enriching for me. So anyway, enough about that, but yeah.
Yay. Which of you ladies want to go? Share a little.
I can share.
Yay.
Hi. Yeah. So yeah, people on the recording and on the call, I mentioned this in our teaser introductory video that this is really meaningful work. And having been exposed to the Salmon Fellows over the last couple of months, there's just so much richness there. I was reading their applications yesterday, and they're just like all really amazing human beings. And, given everything that's happening with the lockdown, like, I'm like, but I still want to meet them. I still want to engage with them. Like, there's so much opportunity to go deeper there. There's so much opportunity to do something around climate change. The world is up in arms right now. And I feel like I'm hoping that things will stabilize, and I feel like they will. And this will be really good timing to reintroduce action. It's almost like the calm after the storm. Like it's thunderstorming right now. This is my cat. Hi. And come June, like the rain will have just, it's like the dust will have settled, and like it'll be up for the right time to do something meaningful that could potentially lead to more meaningful work. So I'm super excited. And I've never been to Alaska, so.
Yet. Cool. All right, Lorene.
Okay, so first of all, the funny thing is before I even knew that I was interested in being in Alaska, when we talked about this, or when you guys talked about this at the conference, I was like super excited about it and very interested in, because I had never been to Alaska before. Now I'm living in Alaska. So, but I think this is a gorgeous area, gorgeous state. I'm excited to actually be working with MSOD people again. I want to learn new things. I'm really interested in all of the work that you guys, that we're talking about doing in June. And so, yeah, I'm engaged, I'm excited. I really, really, really hope in my hearts of hearts that this is going to happen. And I'm excited to be here.
Cool. Oh, some fun stuff to get into. Courtney, are you there near your computer?
Yeah. I am kind of just dovetailing off of what you guys are saying, because I'm mostly excited to bring really thoughtful, creative, interesting people up to Alaska. And so your excitement is what makes mine. So that's pretty much it.
Oh, and Truth in Advertising, she's my daughter. And she's an MSOD recruit. I keep trying every year. And she's helping out tremendously with the logistics and the planning and the organizing. So she'll be joining us on most of the practicum, if not all of it. And so, yeah, just to echo some of your comments, I too have some things that have been, one of our Salmon Fellows gathering that Ariel and I are working on, it's been delayed. And so there is this settling down and time to be more thoughtful. Meanwhile, this work on the climate action arena is building momentum here in Alaska, and I'm very excited about that. We have, originally I was talking to some folks who might do a big festival up in Fairbanks. It did not materialize, but the much of that work is now going to happen here in Anchorage. So we've engaged with the Alaska Climate Action Network as a Transorg system cross-sector network of over 200 entities who are doing something in relationship to climate action. And also more locally in Anchorage, there's a brand new emerging leadership kind of core team for this network called the Anchorage Climate Action and Equity Council. And this is to complement our municipal climate action plan, which was passed by our assembly, and our mayor, but we want it to be an apolitical plan. And so we're creating this council of citizens and leaders to shepherd that plan into the future, irregardless of whichever mayor or political party seems to, be in power at the administration. So it's very exciting to work with both city and statewide nonprofit, for-profit entities that are engaged. One of the interesting lessons in Alaska, and we only have 700,000 people spread over this huge geography, where really climate action is ever present, especially in our coastal communities and the wildfires. Courtney, in fact, works on a project called Fire and Ice with the University of Alaska Anchorage, where they're studying the impacts on our environment and our people. But more than 200 entities have been identified through one of the governor's working task groups, but they're highly fractured and not aligned. There is this label called Alaska Climate Action Network, but from talking to the coordinators and the leaders of that, it is not yet really a highly effective network that's linking and leveraging its resources. So we're really looking at coming in this summer and advancing the quality relationships, the trust, and the potential for working together through link and leverage strategies amongst both people within the Anchorage area and people statewide. So, and this is where it builds a little bit off of the Salmon Fellows work as well. Some of you may have heard the presentation I gave in San Diego last year. And as Ariel mentioned, she has been helping me a lot. We're in a sort of final stages of doing a lessons learned for this program that had 3 years worth of investment, 32 fellows from across the state. And the theory of change behind this was that we would develop these individual leaders and their capacities, link them to people that were very, very different with diverse backgrounds, all interested in salmon, but working at some different angle or having a different relationship with the salmon system. And through those things, to invite them into actions and experiments that would allow for improving the salmon and people system. Maybe Ariel, just like minute and a half or something, like overview of what you've encountered through your research on the Salmon Fellows?
Yeah. So, oh, like there's kind of like this personal development, leadership component, which they all leaned into, and I think there's just like general more appreciation for differences and leaning in and listening and like not being so polarizing and looking for the gray in the middle, which a lot of people mentioned because they're so different and they come from polarizing backgrounds. In the past, maybe they may have not even spoken to each other, but they were able to kind of see each other's worlds from each other's eyes and have more empathy and understanding. So that was like a big takeaway. I think another thing is around like the complexity of systems. They all had an understanding of like maybe their part of the system and some complex dynamics walking into this, but through the interviews and at the end, you just saw so much kind of like bewilderment and like what do we do about this? We're like there's no easy out, but we're having the conversation and we're glad we're having the conversation. We're more empathetic, but it's just, you know, kind of this overwhelming sadness of the state of the world, the complexity and the institutions that bind us when as human beings we're much more complex than the institutions that we come from. So it's like it's kind of like facing a dilemma, and you know the environmental piece comes in, there's a big equity piece that comes in, and just, you know, the experience allowed people to get more exposure to indigenous culture and ways of being, and that has really changed them in terms of how they view diversity and inclusion and how they're bringing those topics up on to their boards that they serve on. So generally, like there was a lot of insights and ahas. They all came in with a really different interpretation of what systems change is. Like that's something that Kitty and I are going to talk about later today is like, what is systems change? They all come from different parts of the system, and they all had different expectations or understanding of what that could possibly be. And so like, how do you scope something like that with such diversity? So the whole systems, like they were able to do projects to create some sort of impact, but there was a little bit of there was a missing felt of like, we felt like we didn't accomplish systems change, but it's super complex and it's big. And how do you even scope that? So that's kind of like where the conversation leaves off for next time is like, you know, how do we, like, what do we mean by this? And like, what can we scope with what group of people and what progress can we make?
Yeah. So it's really been great. So I was immersed in this for most of the last 3 years, and Ariel's come in with fresh eyes, and she's able to sort of see and articulate a little bit of the flow. And we are going to be able to have as a pre-read for the practicum participants will be a nice report around the Salmon Fellows program. And we're also going to probably be doing some empathy mapping and interviews, going out and talking to several of these Salmon Fellows and getting to know their stories and them personally, and that will then shape our experience going to learn and take those lessons into the Climate Action Network and folks. And not surprisingly, some of these people are really interested in both topics. There's a natural connection between the concern for the salmon sustainability and climate action. So I think what I'll do is walk through the plan we have over the 10-day period, and then just kind of kick it open to ideas and Q&A, and then we'll kind of wrap up the recording. So hold on 2 seconds. I'm going to share a screen. Oops, I'm going to share that guy. So as you all know, the theme around this is the systems change through Transorg systems, and trying to translate what's been learned in a few settings up here in Alaska to the settings that matter to you. As we mentioned, there's a pre-trip. This is going to start Friday, June 12th, and we'll do Friday, Saturday, and Sunday as a pre-trip, mostly on the Kenai Peninsula. We'll be staying in Cooper Landing. It's actually some nice glamping at Alaska Horseman's Adventures. And Lissa from Kentucky, right? I think that's where she's from, Patty. She's coming up and she and Patty are gonna have this wonderful experience with us. In addition to the horse equine presence and leadership and really understanding how we show up as leaders as a self-learning day, we're also gonna explore Alaska and go out onto the Resurrection Bay and see some of the glaciers that are rapidly melting and other wildlife. So it'll be a fun pre-trip down on the, which is really sort of Alaskans' playground in the summer. So it should be wonderful. We're going to come back to town and meet up on Monday morning with anyone who did not do the pre-trip, but they're there for the formal start. And we're going to do some work in town, in Anchorage, I should say, getting oriented to each other on the kind of content of the core program, the climate action issues, who are we going to be meeting. And then we're going to fly that evening on a charter to the village of Igiugig. It's across Cook Inlet, probably about a 25-30 minute flight to land at the mouth of the Kvichak River and Lake Iliamna. This is Alaska's largest lake, and it's one of the largest salmon habitats. That picture in the lower left there is the entire village. Population roughly 60, indigenous community. One of our salmon fellows, her name is actually Christina Salmon. She and her family were born and raised there, and they are doing tremendous work. They're also being very innovative in this one village. It's an incredibly healthy village, thanks to the leadership of a few and the collective nature of making the decisions the way they do there. But they've put in this the Kvichak River installed a clean energy river current electric generator. So that's the first in the world, I believe, to have been installed. And so we'll get to hear about their stories there and enjoy potlatch, probably some fun dancing and singing, and probably some fishing too. So then we'll be back. We're going to spend 2 nights there in Igiugig, really experiencing a unique part of our state. And by the way, that is the part that the Kvichak River and Lake Iliamna, that drains into the Bristol Bay watershed, which is really the world's still most sustainable and vibrant salmon fishery. And so you'll learn a lot about this unique part of the earth. We're going to come back into Anchorage then on Wednesday, and we're going to stay there Wednesday through the following Sunday, Monday. And this is where we're going to do the primary client work. We're going to be supporting this, I mentioned them, the Anchorage Climate Action and Equity Council. And that's to create a network of citizens to take the lead and sustain the accountability as citizens, as businesses, as governmental entities towards advancing climate action within our community. And with them to try to create a larger systems network through the Alaska CAN, the Alaska Climate Action Network. One of the things I mentioned, there's these over 200 entities, but they really don't understand the nature of the system. And this is one of the things we've really learned from the Salmon Fellows, is none of them, no matter how deep they're experienced, had a full perspective of how complex and rich and interconnected many players are within the system. So we're gonna do what we call an actor mapping exercise, kind of systems mapping. Who are the big influencers? Where are there very strong relationships? Where could there be opportunities for stronger linkages across that network? And again, building a sense of actionability, rather than this being a loose affiliation of people interested in the same thing. They're actually aligned with trust, appreciation for their differences to take action. So we don't have the design specifically spelled out for these days because I'm still working with the client. Meeting with them on March 31st is the next time. But they're advancing in spite of, we were going to have an open house here in April and to welcome potential members of the Equity Council, the Climate Action and Equity Council, but we're putting the open house on hold, and we're obviously going to try to figure out new ways of doing it, probably have a virtual open house or something like that. So that's the climate action areas. And I'd love to brainstorm with if people have the capacity who are coming up for the practicum, we can have a couple pre-sessions and be thinking so that it's not just, Kitty and Ariel kind of thinking, how do we leverage the time, but we engage in everybody as a true client, as a true team of practicum participants. So let's see. Here's our home base where we're going to be in Anchorage. Courtney found us this cool guest house up on the Lower Hill side. So we'll be looking out there over Cook Inlet and enjoy some sunshine from every room. So basic participant expectations here is just to be willing to explore and learn about Alaska climate change and systems change and Transorg systems with our wonderful MSOD alumni. The cost, I have a few ways that people can go ahead and make contributions, but I'm going to change the deposit goal by April 1st. I think people obviously need to, I'm not canceling it. We do think that June is still very feasible and it's a good time we're going to want to do this. Right now, I'm not financially on the hook for any of the lodging, so we can kind of write it out. And my hope is that by the time we finally kind of say, all right, it's a firm go, that air travel will be pretty affordable, because I think that airlines are going to want to get people back up in the air. So it should. I don't know that the cost is going to come down, but I do think that you're safe not booking a flight right away if you haven't already. Let's see. I think that's most everything. There's one last. This is kind of hard to see, but this is the trip at a glance, where I'm currently putting just a high level notes for the design. So again, you can see people will fly in on, say, the 11th or 10th. You can do pre-trip things before then, but we're going to begin around noon on Friday. So some people might be coming in on a overnight flight, come in that morning. We'll do a local reception with several OD folks here in Anchorage who are really anxious to meet you all. Probably some members of our Climate Action Council team. So we'll kind of get oriented and grounded, and then we're going to get in a van and drive to the Kenai Peninsula, where we're going to spend 3 nights in Cooper Landing. Saturday will be the day in Seward and out on Resurrection Bay, including a variety of choices, and maybe we'll hone in on what 1 or 2 things we all want to do together. We got Patty and Lissa on the Sunday the 14th, and then we'll be driving back into Anchorage Monday morning and meeting up with everyone else who's coming in. We'll have, again, then we'll fly to Igiugig, have 2 nights in Igiugig, probably 2.5 days there. I'm thinking Wednesday we'll still probably spend most of that time in Igiugig and get back into Anchorage in the afternoon. And then we've got the Thursday through Sunday. Sunday is a summer solstice festival here in Anchorage, and one of the things I learned from the climate action plan for Anchorage, actually it was at something called the Seed Lab, affiliated with our university, and they exist in support of climate action. This branch of the university is an innovation space, and the coordinator is going to be on summer solstice. They're going to block off one block, kind of like down in Boulder, they've got Pearl Street as a pedestrian area. So on solstice, they're going to rope off a block and have stations within it for hands-on citizen engagement in climate action activities. So not just booths with pamphlets that you pick up and paper, but for actual some of these organizations to engage residents in the climate action work going on and around Alaska, what you can do individually and what organizations are doing. So that's something that I have already put us in to say we're going to be hands-on trying to help bring that event space to life and participate in it. So that'll be some fun on summer solstice. We'll have a closing probably on Monday morning, and then people will go on and do their things. There's certainly several other pre and post trip options for people to see other parts of Alaska. But all right, well, so I think let me open it up to questions that you guys might have first, and then, well, actually questions or ideas, because we do, as you can see, have quite a lot of flexibility here. Ideas that might relate to like a particular intervention or particular readings or a experience that we can work on with our practicum folks. Oh my God, the world's largest squirrel just went running by. Okay, wildlife. So questions or ideas from any of y'all?
I'll go. So, you know, first of all, I'm super excited that we're going to be talking about climate change and, you know, salmon, these bigger questions, because we all have, I don't know, I feel like there are many MSOD people who really want to make a dink in some of these bigger systemic issues, but they don't know how to wrap their head around it or what to do. And, you know, what tools to bring to solve those problems and all that stuff. So I'm super excited about whatever emerges out of that. And I've been thinking that as I've been working on my book on alignment and art of alignment, that tool might be a useful tool for the audience, that of people who want to know, okay, how do we not just talk about climate change, but get into committed action around it and build alliances and agreements and actions around it. Now, you know, there's lots of ways to do that, so it's not the only way to do it, but it's something that I've been working on, and in my dream space about it, I was hoping that it might make a contribution to that particular outcome that I really care a lot about. So I'm happy to bring it if there's space and time. And again, I'm also happy to just receive, you know, because my book's going to be out, people can read it, they'll meet me, you know, so I don't need to bring it. But if there's time or space and you thought it was useful, I'm happy to figure out a way to, you know, provide a little mini workshop on it, discussion about it, or just, you know, anything that might be helpful. Because I do think that a lot of times what I see with people who are very generous and open-hearted about these really big global issues is that tangible work of like, how do I get a room full of people to actually take action or make a decision or move these forward, is one of the skills that they, you know, seem to often struggle with. As does everybody, you know, corporate setting, we're a little bit more forced to do it because we have these tighter deadlines, you know, it's some of these things that are important but not necessarily urgent, like the you know, the glaciers are melting, they're becoming more urgent all the time, right? And so I think that the time is good for that skill set to be transferred to people who are interested in not just talking about it, but really taking committed action in a bigger scale with a bigger group of people. So anyway, food for thought. I'm not stuck to it in any way, like, you know.
But I am. I can't imagine doing any of this work without embodying the art of alignment kind of practices, and so I think that there's definitely room in there for that, Patty. And the timing sounds really good with your book, too. So great ideas. Other thoughts and comments from Lorene or Ariel or Courtney? Well, what I think I'll do, I don't know if those of you who are pretty committed to doing this with us, there is a Google Doc out there, kind of a running list of things, and I've been updating it. So I might create a segment there called sort of design ideas and tools and resources, and we can start sharing some of those things on that spot. There's only so much we can do on the Facebook, because that thread has gotten so long. I may open up a Slack channel as well for Practicum peeps, Alaska Practicum folks. That way we can kind of simpler than email and sort of share documents. Is everybody here relatively familiar with Slack? I see some nods. Okay. Yeah, I think it'll turn out to be a useful space for us.
I have a quick question, and it's a little, I don't know if it's off topic, but, you know, I'm kind of curious, like how many people are signing up, whether people are bringing spouses, you know, all of those kind of things, whether we need to be selling it beyond our group in order to get it filled up, you know, how to really get the right confluence of people so that it is like this rich experience we're looking for.
Right. So in the Google Doc, I was going to pull it up, but you can look at it. There's about 10 to 12 names. Not everybody's made a firm commitment yet, but there is that much interest. So everybody that you've seen on the email list, for example, those are all the people who have expressed some interest. There's one or two people have asked about spouses, and spouses, of course, spouses were invited and included throughout the entire experience during the India practicum. And so learning from Shafali and Dan Schmitz and Jenny, who all participated in that, we will definitely, spouses are and significant others are invited to join. There's just a little extra, ramping up and letting them understand how, the MSOD tribe kind of quickly gets connected very fast, just so that they can know what to expect. But some folks are thinking of including friends or spouses on the pre-trip only. I got that inquiry. There is room, I'm confident, because right now, if all of these people signed up, we'd be right around the right number, but I don't think that's going to pan out. Somebody's going to end up having to change their plans. So I do think recruiting a few more MSODs or what I call the kindred spirits would be wonderful. And so that, and there's a few here in Alaska. I think I've mentioned that, Ariel and Patty and I all work with Cameron, and I think he would be wonderful to include in this program. Tonio, who was in the Ariel's cohort, he lives here in Alaska. So another friend, Tim Pearson, some others. So I think that there's a way of rounding it out with more Alaskans, but I want first to be sure that we make sure that the MSOD tribe sees the opportunity. So if you have thoughts on whether it's particular individuals or new ways of doing the outreach. Yeah, good questions.
I guess the other question is, so, I know we don't really know, but like if this virus thing goes on a while, and we end up in like May and we still don't kind of know what's happening. Curious what this group is around, because for me, I think I can put energy into this, but I got so many other things I need to put energy into that if it's, I don't know. I mean, I know that nobody really knows the answer to this, but I'm just wondering if there's a time period where we'll say, okay, we're going to kind of play it by ear until X date or something.
Yeah, I think there's one scenario. We can do this at a different time, so it doesn't have to be over solstice. We may, if June looks bad, but September, looks clear, we might consider a shift. But I don't think we need to do that yet. Two, I'm going to be doing a lot of this work virtually anyway. And so we might consider what dimensions of the practicum could we do virtually. It never will replace getting out, on the glacier and, with the horses, but for people who want to be engaged in the kind of client experience, we can team up for certain pieces of it on that as well. So those are two ideas that come to mind, Patty. I'm going to keep working with the client system for the time being. I feel like on the practicum, we know as much as we need to know for June. And so it shouldn't take a lot more energy other than we want to just remind people that it is out there. It hasn't been canceled yet. There's no cost right now for somebody to sign up, just to express their interest. So we kind of have people to communicate with. And then I'll just work with the clients and start developing the readiness with them, which is, by the way, something I'm going to do with or without the practicum. And that's what I've told them. I'm like, my investment in climate action is to facilitate their networks and their leadership entities towards actionable strategies. And I'm doing that pro bono work as part of my social enterprise business. Bringing the practicum is another whole added value to Alaska and us. So one way or the other, I'm going to keep doing that as well. So there's not a ton to do. I just wanted to go ahead and do today's Zoom since I'd set up the doodle 100 years ago and wanted to connect with folks who had questions. So I think I'm going to go ahead and turn off the recorder unless people want to say one more thing before I won't turn off the meeting yet, but I'll just turn off the recording. Oh,
I just want to say goodbye to my, MSOD peeps. Bye, everybody. I'm excited to do this, and I would just, Allison, whoever else is, interested, like, we could have so much fun doing this. So please come.
I want to see my Epsilon primates up there. Ariel?
I was just going to say the same thing. Like, join us. We'd love to have you.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. And Lorraine? Yay, she may be living here by then. Still living here, I don't know.
Possibly, who knows?
All right, well, hold on just a second. Well, anyway, bye everybody. We'll send more information out when we get it.